is a satirical play because the author, through his play, talks about the present education system. What should happen in that re-exam? All of them, they decide unanimously that they have to mark all his answers correct, even though if it is wrong. Wasserkoff has failed in his trick. Now there is no answer by Wasserkoff. He has to agree that his answer is correct. Now his math skills are also proved correct. Hello everyone, a very warm welcome. I am Dr. Shalini, Professor of English, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, the Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. Today we are here to understand one of the one-act plays, that is Refund, in the second part prescribed by University of Mysuru for 4th Sem B.B.A. In the previous session, we understood, that is in the first part, we understood the different parts of this one-act play. Let us understand what is there as a recap in this session, and then we will move on to the summary of the text. So first, let us have a recap of what we learnt in the previous session. So we had to know about the structure of this play here, that is the one-act play. So in this recap, we'll just understand the structure again, because we've already done this in the previous session. Just a recap for you to understand from where to where, that is from which incident to which incident comes under this part. Okay, so the first part of this play, that is the structure of this play, is exposition. That means this actually provides the background. So what do we talk in the background? This provides all information about who is Wasserkoff and how does he meet his friend and why he has to go to the school in order to ask the tuition fee back. So this is the background that is provided there. Then it introduces the main characters. Fine. So here when they introduce the main character, it is all about Wasserkoff, then also the principal and also the other teachers. So up to the introduction of all these characters, that is the exposition part that is there. And also this tells us about the idea or maybe their temperament, their behavior and all is spoken about in this exposition. So you understand what is Wasserkoff, you understand what is the principal, you understand teacher's mentality also under exposition. Then coming to this, it is complication. So this actually provides us information about the eagerness, the stress that is faced by Wasserkoff in order to get his money back. By hook or crook is the word used over here. He is determined to get his money back. He also decides to give wrong answers in order to get his money back. So by hook or crook, he has to get his money back and is determined to that. But because of determination of the principal and the teachers, that is all the 4 teachers are there, right? They are determined to outwit him. They decide to outsmart him and send him out of the school. So this is the complication. So because of he wants to get the money back, they don't want to give the money back. So this whatever conflict is happening, because of that there is a complication that arises in the story. Fine. The third part is this climax. So climax tells us about, like in all the movies you must have seen, right? So climax tells us about what happens, what is the end result of it. Okay. So here Wasserkoff passes, like the teachers mark it as correct even though answers are wrong. But here Wasserkoff passes the arithmetical calculation, but he fails in understanding the master's mind. Okay, so the trick what the mathematics teacher had to play on him, he is not able to understand that. He is able to understand the question, he is able to understand that he has to give wrong answer, but he fails in understanding the trick that the math teacher has to play on him. So he is not able to understand, and the final trap, that is he falls into the trap of this mathematics teacher. So this comes under the climax. So you must be wondering, what is it, what is that is going to happen in climax, what is happening in this conflict and all. Yes, in the next slides we are going to look at the summary, so you'll be able to understand it better. So the last part is denouement, and here the unceremonious dismissal of Wasserkoff after declaration of the result. Unceremonious, without any consideration at all. They don't even look at what Wasserkoff is doing. They literally lift him and throw him out of the school. So without any consideration, they just throw him out of the school when he comes to ask for refund after he passes the exam. So this comes under denouement. Okay, what is the result of this climax is what is spoken in denouement. So the reason I spoke about all these is, however, you are going to understand the summary in the coming slides. you need to divide those, whatever points you're going to understand, you need to divide according to this structure of the play. So you will be able to understand it better. Fine. So keeping these things in mind, please read the story. Please try to understand in the coming slides. Okay. So whenever I speak about the mentality of this Wasserkoff or the teachers, so that comes under exposition. Then when I'm talking about what complication has happened, you have to put it under complication. Then we have this climax also. When math teacher comes and talks about his question, he tells him that he's going to ask 2 questions, wherein one is easy, one is difficult, and also that comes under climax. What happens after the math teacher plays a trick on Wasserkoff? So that you have to understand as climax. And at last you have denouement, that is the result of this climax. What is the result of this climax? So you need to divide it among these 4 parts and you will understand this story in a better way. So now let us start by understanding the summary of this story. So to begin with, we need to understand that this is an absurd and satirical play. So absurd because there are a lot of unexpected developments, unexpected twists that are taking place in this drama. This is a satirical play because the author, through his play, talks about the present education system. Present education system in the sense he is talking about the education system that was prevalent during his time. But even today it is very relevant. So that is what we are talking about here when we come to satire. Fine. So this play is about a former student. His name is Wasserkoff. Okay, so this is a Hungarian name. The author has taken Hungarian names because he was a Hungarian writer, and the translator has retained the same names here. So here this is about a former student who is 40 years old, but he is jobless. So Wasserkoff had studied in a school. This incident takes place, this whole play takes place in that school only. And he is 40 years old and he is still jobless. So what happens? One day he meets his classmate Lederer. Lederer is another character there. He meets his classmate. What happens is during their conversation, Lederer talks to him about some share investment and all. So this Wasserkoff actually asks him what does it mean. Like he speaks to him as if he has no knowledge about it. So Lederer also talks about money exchange, that is foreign currency exchange. Then also Wasserkoff doesn't know anything about it. So during the course of their conversation, Lederer makes fun of Wasserkoff, telling you have not developed any skills at all. That is the reason you are jobless. So just go back to your school and ask for refund of your school fee, that is tuition fee, he says. But what happens here? Wasserkoff could have left it just like that, but he takes it very seriously. He feels that yes, for him not developing skills, that is the reason behind this is the bad education given by the school, he feels. So what he does, he just goes back to the school and he contacts the principal. So he goes and meets principal over there. So here after Lederer tells him to go and talk about the refund of this tuition fee, he goes to his school and he actually goes back to school after 18 years. Fine. So he goes back to school and he talks to the principal. Principal is very busy in something. The attender comes and tells him that a former student wants to meet. Like he doesn't know he is a former student. The principal asks the attender who is it who has come. So attender says he is not a student, he is not a parent also. So principal says fine, you just make him sit, I'll come and meet him. So fine, Wasserkoff will be waiting and this principal comes and talks to Wasserkoff. He asks him what is the matter, who is he? Then Wasserkoff introduces himself to him, to the principal, and says, I am a former student, I am 40 years old, but I still haven't got any job. So I want you to refund my tuition fee, whatever fee I have paid to the school, I want a refund of that because school has failed in giving me the skills with which I have to get a job. So the principal is taken aback with this request of Wasserkoff. Okay, so he feels very shocked. Okay, principal is very shocked hearing the request of this former student. So he wanted to decide what has to be done. So he tells Wasserkoff to wait. So Wasserkoff very rudely, he says, see, I'm waiting. Don't waste my time. I'll wait for some time. Then if you're not refunding the fee, then you'll have to face the consequences, he says. So principal just tells him to wait calmly and he goes back to his staff. he urgently calls for a staff meeting. So who are the people there in the meeting? It is the mathematics teacher, it is the history teacher, geography teacher and a physics teacher who are there. So they all come for a meeting, and it was a very urgent meeting, emergency meeting is what the principal talks about. So he calls for a meeting and he talks to them and he briefs all the teachers about this. So what can be done, he says. So mathematics teacher stands up and says, if we are determined, if we work together, then we can outsmart him, he says. So everybody asks him how to do it. So he tells them, just get ready with one question. We will tell him that we are going to conduct an examination and check if he has developed the skill or not in order to get a job. So that is what happens here. So they decide to conduct a re-exam. Okay, so then what should happen in that re-exam? All of them, they decide unanimously that they have to mark all his answers correct, even though if it is wrong, because since Wasserkoff's intention was to get back the tuition fee, he will obviously give wrong answers. Isn't it? When you are determined to get the tuition fee back, like he has used the word hook or crook, means at any cost he wanted the tuition fee back. So what he does, he will intentionally give wrong answers. So that time these teachers had also determined that they have to mark all the answers as correct. By hook or crook, they will mark the answers correct. So this was their decision. It was something like getting prepared for a war. Fine. So this is what happens. They all decide like this. They all come ready with the one question each. So in the meantime, the principal goes and talks to Wasserkoff and tells him that, see, our teachers have decided to conduct a re-exam. If at all you fail in that, your tuition fee will be refunded. If you clear the exam, that means the school is successful in inculcating all the skills which you want to get a job. So this is what is the agreement. Then Wasserkoff is taken aback because he didn't expect this from the principal. He thought like he can quarrel and he'll get the tuition fee back. But now there is a twist in the tale. So he says, okay, fine, I'll face the re-exam. And when he comes to face this re-exam, all these teachers are there. It is in a hall that exam is conducted. They say, we are not going to conduct the written exam. We are going to hold an oral exam, they say. So Wasserkoff agrees for that also. So now the teachers are determined to stay together and outsmart him. Fine. So to begin with, this Wasserkoff had to greet the teachers, isn't it? Like when you meet some teacher, you say good morning, good afternoon, you greet the teacher, isn't it? But here what happens? Wasserkoff intentionally uses abusive language and also he uses derogatory words. Derogatory meaning insulting words. Why does he do this? He thinks if they scold him back because of this behavior, he feels that yes, that is also one kind of skill not being developed, isn't it? A person being very courteous or maybe very obedient, that is the value developed by school, isn't it? That means here, see, he is using derogatory words, using this abusive language. That means the school has failed to correct his behavior. So he feels that they may mark that as like his behavior as wrong, but that doesn't happen because teachers were already determined to mark him correct. So they all praise him. What a language, what a behavior, they say. So they praise him for his behavior. Then a history teacher starts asking the question. To begin with, history teacher starts it. So he asks a question, how long did the war of 30 years last? So here what happens? This is a very obvious question wherein the answer can be seen in the question itself, isn't it? So 30 years is the answer. But what does Wasserkoff do? He was about to tell the correct answer, but since he was also determined to give wrong answer, what does he say? He says, no, it did not last for 30 years. He just says 7 kilometers. So then their mathematics teacher comes to the aid of this history teacher. So what does he say? Somehow he relates the answer and then he marks it as correct. Okay, so he just calculates something like if the war was held for 8 hours a day, they would have slept, they would have done eating and all. So everything he calculates, finally this distance comes up to 7 kilometers. So his answer is correct. Profound answer, they say. So that is the comment they give. He is surprised. Wasserkoff is actually very surprised. So here what does the math teacher use? He uses the Einstein's theory of relativity. So he feels that is correct. Then math teacher also praises him for learning physics so very well. Okay, so he uses this theory of relativity, right? So here theory of relativity is also learnt by Wasserkoff, is the math teacher's statement. Fine. So finally history teacher outsmarts Wasserkoff. Then comes the physics teacher. So he asks him a question. Does the church bell get smaller or is it optical illusion, he says. Okay. So he gives a practical incident like example. So he says, if at all an ass is going out, if at all a donkey is walking away from the church bell, does it get smaller or is it because of optical illusion? So now Wasserkoff also answers intentionally it is wrong. So okay. Now what happens? They have to prove it is correct. Fine. So physics teacher also again he tells that it is related to lot of philosophy, because the donkey also will have a kind of optical illusion, and that is why it is correct, because donkey cannot think, isn't it? So obviously it will not because it is getting smaller, it is just because it is optical illusion. They themselves relate the answer to the correct answer, that is relate Wasserkoff's answer to the correct answer, and they prove it right. Fine. So here again physics master's question is also cleared. Next, there is another question. So here, though the answer is wrong, they relate it to the correct answer and obviously they prove it correct. Then comes the geography teacher. He also asks a question. So that time again, the answer is wrong, but that question is also in the same path. That answer is also somehow related to the correct answer and they prove it to be right. Now, the only one left was the math teacher. So geography is over, physics is over, history is over. So now with lot of difficulty they have come to this stage. Wasserkoff is very restless. All the three subjects are marked correct now. Only math teacher is left. Now what does math teacher do? This is the twist in the tale here. So what does math teacher do? He declares that he is going to ask one easy question and one difficult question. So Wasserkoff is very happy. So what he does? He asks a question. So math teacher asks a very easy question for which obviously Wasserkoff gives a wrong answer. So now what happens? Math teacher accepts that it is wrong. Yes, it is a wrong answer, he says. Now there is silence everywhere. All the teachers are surprised. They say this fellow told us to mark all the answers correct. This fellow himself, he is marking this answer wrong. So they were all asking, what are you doing? What are you doing? But Wasserkoff is very happy that his tuition fee will be refunded. So he's very happy. Now math teacher says, I can't mark this answer as correct. This is a wrong answer. This simple answer you have made it wrong and all. He scolds Wasserkoff. Then what happens? Then he says, here he actually plays a trick. Math teacher then asks him, okay, now tell me how much should be paid back? What is the refund of what is the amount that has to be refunded? He says. What does Wasserkoff do? He gives the calculation intact. His calculation is intact. Pi to pi calculation he gives and the answer is correct. But what happens here? Since this is a trick played by math teacher, after Wasserkoff gives the calculation and all, this math teacher says that I told you I will ask you one easy question and one difficult question. See, easy question, you have made it wrong. But difficult question, see, you have given a proper answer. Your calculation is very correct. That was my second difficult question, he says. Now, Wasserkoff has failed in his trick. Now, there is no answer by Wasserkoff. He has to agree that his answer is correct. Now his math skills are also proved correct. So he has developed this math skill also. So this trick played by the math teacher on Wasserkoff, Wasserkoff fails to understand. Then now he has to admit that he has developed all the skills. So finally he is marked good in math also. So all the 4 core subjects which he had to attempt, all the 4 core subjects he is marked excellent. So now he fails to understand the trick of this math teacher and he fails. Okay. So he fails to get his tuition fee back, but he passes in the exam. Then what happens? What and all scoldings this Wasserkoff had used, what and all derogatory words this Wasserkoff had used, all that is used back by the teachers on Wasserkoff. He is unceremoniously thrown out of the school. What does the meaning unceremoniously mean? It means without any condition, without any consideration, he is thrown out of the school. He is told how stupid he was. So obviously what and all words he had used, what and all he had used to scold these teachers, everybody takes a revenge on that. Everybody scold him back and tell him not to use such stupid tricks in order to earn money. So now he feels that he should not have done it. This is very stupid of him. So that part is not elaborated here by Fritz Carinthi. So all of them are very happy. They outsmart him, and the principal finally congratulates his staff for being so clever and outsmarting him. So this is the story of Refund, that is one act play. So we have understood about the 4 different parts in the previous session, and in this session we have understood the total summary of this story. Okay, so yes, if you want to understand better, if you want to understand what are the questions asked by the teachers and what are the derogatory words and all that is used, yeah, this will obviously help you in attempting your question paper. Okay, so I would request you to go through the whole play. Okay, so this is only a 17 to 20 pages play. You can go through in maybe 15-20 minutes. Fine. So it is good that you read each and every dialogue. So even you will enjoy. This is not a very boring one. This is not a long story also. This is a matter of half an hour for you to understand. Fine. So please read each and every dialogue so that you can understand it better. Fine. So this was the summary of this Refund. So in our next session, we'll be meeting with another more interesting topic. So till then, keep learning, children. Thank you for your time. See you soon. Bye-bye.